Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my top 10 Wonder Woman allies. So this is a straightforward and fun list. I've been looking over the collective history of Wonder Woman, and with a team of experts, I have picked those I think were best to the side of this important character in the world of DC. Let's kick things off with number 10, Supergirl. Supergirl takes this spot thanks to having spent time in Themyscira, receiving training there and even having earned the title of an honorary member of the Amazonian tribe. The exact specifications of this vary depending on continuity, and I'm pretty sure it's not currently in canon. But I really like the idea when it comes up, and I think it is worth mentioning here. It reflects a little more on Supergirl's character and history than Wonder Woman's, but it does give them a unique bond in history. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Wonder Woman would have had a solid perspective to share with Supergirl as an outsider entering the modern world of Earth, unlike Superman who grew up in American society. It fits nicely together, and I do think it is a solid combination of two pretty great characters overall. I like connections like this between various superhero factions in both Marvel and DC, since it gives the worlds a bit more of a lived-in feeling, but it's also fun just to have these connections between characters. Number 9. Ares. Next up is the sometimes ally, sometimes enemy of Wonder Woman, Ares, god of war. This character secured a spot on the list for two reasons. One, yes, though he frequently serves as an enemy of Wonder Woman, Ares is primarily focused on war, and will pretty much side with and help anyone he believes will further acts of war on Earth. The best example of this was the Ares we saw in Injustice. Sure, he's a villain, but a Superman that controls the Earth led to a more peaceful planet, and the god of war wanted none of that. This is the fun of Ares. He can be a temporary ally, and a sincere one at that, depending on the story in question. When they are working together, Ares and Wonder Woman can be a dangerous team, and I like it just because Wonder Woman is very aware she can't really trust the god either, and rightfully so. Ares is all too willing to use her power to fulfill his own goals or just set her up perfectly to defeat a common enemy and then go back to whatever he's been planning. I like this, and it's well and good, but not really enough to merit consideration as one of Wonder Woman's best allies, not on its own. The real reason Ares is on this top 10 is thanks to his role in the New 52, specifically under Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman. We'll talk a bit more about this run later, but here we saw a Wonder Woman who actually got trained by Ares himself, and would go on to have a very interesting and complicated relationship throughout Azzarello's series because of it. Without giving away too much in terms of spoilers from that story arc, I'll just say these two really developed into something we hadn't seen before, and I think worked on a strong level for both Ares and Wonder Woman's characters. The New 52 version had a dynamic akin to that of Daredevil and Stick. Sometimes they're at odds with one another, but they still have this strong mentor-mentee vibe, and yeah, it was just really cool and stuck with me, even now, years later. I still think it's one of the best relationships Wonder Woman has had with any of the Greek gods, and just with any ally in general. Number 8. Cassandra SANDSMARK. So this character gets the next spot quite easily. As the third person to take on the name Wonder Girl, Cassandra was an easy choice as one of the two women who carried on Diana's legacy in the Titans and Teen Titans series. Cassandra, whose origins are kinda complicated, but I'm just gonna call her Wonder Woman's niece, because that's true now, serves as a pretty solid ally and protege of Diana. She doesn't quite dominate this top 10 like the Robins did for Batman on his list of best allies, because when it comes right down to it, I actually know a lot more about Wonder Girl's relationships with her fellow Teen Titans than I actually do with Diana. Since that's where most of this character's history and life takes place, and they never really had a team-up series like Batman and Robin, we've seen a lot more of Cassandra interacting with her fellow team members than we have with Diana in general. Still, what we have gotten is pretty good. Much like the other Titans members, when the mentor shows up, you always know things are going to get real for Cassie. Her and Wonder Woman had had their ups and downs, including one really big falling out with each other on pretty harsh terms in the past. Eventually they reconciled from this, and Wonder Woman even gave Cassie her blessing, saying that SANDSMARK had become her own woman and hero in her own right. All of this happened before New 52, and therefore isn't really canon anymore, or at least not at this particular moment in writing this script. But the two have great potential together. Even in the modern world of Wonder Woman, Diana actually had a really well-developed and nicely handled story with Cassie's father, a man named Lennox. This not only made Cassie a niece to Wonder Woman, as I alluded to earlier, but it also means when these two encounter each other, Diana is very likely to have a certain obligation to look out for Wonder Girl because of her relationship with her father. I think that'd be actually interesting going forward, but that's only hypothetical at this moment, so let's just move on. Number 7. Donna Troy. Wonder Woman's sister and or magical clone and or successor and or fellow Amazonian and or amalgamation of all possible realities, Donna Troy takes the number 7 spot, right beside Cassandra. The two are in a very similar position, where, while it's cool Wonder Woman has this extended family and connections with younger superheroes just like Batman and Superman do, it does feel like Donna and Cassandra were more involved with their fellow team members just as Diana was more involved with the Justice League. And yet there was enough from both characters, and Donna slightly more than Cassie, that they felt like they deserved a spot on this top 10. Donna beats out her slightly younger counterpart simply because I found a bit more of a connection between the two throughout Donna's convoluted, crazy as balls history. As the sometimes sister, sometimes clone, sometimes God knows what of Wonder Woman, Donna often found herself at the target of curses or spells meant for Diana, but mistakenly bestowed on her instead due to their close physical similarity. It gives the two a very unique and tragic feel to their relationship. Donna has suffered immensely because of Wonder Woman, yet she still looks up to her, because obviously Diana didn't do any of this intentionally. But you can tell Wonder Woman kind of feels bad for it. I don't know, I found it very interesting what I read of these two. And though it stands out in Wonder Woman's history, good luck trying to understand half of Donna's story. You'd have an easier time solving a Millennium Prize problem. Number 6. HIPPOLYTA. Wonder Woman's mother has often played an important role in Diana's story and adventures throughout the character's history. Her being on this top 10 felt almost like a given, and though her value as an ally and mother cannot be understated, it also seems very self-evident to me. Hippolyta has served as a strong guide, mentor, and guardian for Wonder Woman, like any good mother, and she's an essential part of Diana's history and story, often serving as a valuable source of inspiration, help, and guidance to Wonder Woman. Sometimes the two fight, sometimes they make mistakes and hurt one another. They're family, they kind of do that sort of thing, but they'll always forgive each other and look at each other that way. They're often put into an interesting position as Hippolyta's role as the ruler often conflicts with her desire as a mother, and there's a lot of depth and development that has accompanied that over the years. It's hard to understate just how important Hippolyta is for Wonder Woman and her backstory. And yet, in general, Wonder Woman is usually off doing her own thing while her mother rules Themyscira, or Hippolyta and the Amazons will disagree or outright oppose something Diana is doing. But when they do work together, it is a relationship built on faith and family, and one that really can't be overlooked or replaced. How many superheroes out there have this strong relationship with their mother like Wonder Woman does? I'm going off script here and racking my brain, and I literally can't think of any on this level of Diana, so it's really cool to have this character in Hippolyta. The fact that she got number 6 really isn't a slight against her, it just shows how competitive we're about to get with this list. Let's get to that. Number 5. HERA. So I've tried to keep the number of Azzarello characters on this list to a minimum. I'm a big fan of his run on Wonder Woman with Cliff Chiang. This big, long epic that spanned most of the New 52, for whatever reason, really spoke to me. But I understand that not everyone is down with this arc, possibly for good reasons, and more importantly, Wonder Woman as a character is simply so much bigger and more complex than one good creative run. Still, 2 characters from the Azzarello era made it to my top 10, and I feel both really deserve a spot, the aforementioned Ares and now with HERA. They are both characters that owe their position on this list almost entirely to Azzarello, starting out as enemies in his story but eventually becoming important allies, and I picked both of them for this very reason. A major theme throughout the Azzarello run is Wonder Woman's uncanny ability to turn enemies into friends, and I think that really speaks to her character. Diana's compassion and capability for love is on full display during the extended Azzarello storyline, and I think this was best expressed in how she related to HERA. While the stuff with Ares was good, HERA's story took things even further. Starting out as a vicious and spiteful enemy that was going out of her way to bring harm to an infant, HERA eventually became a close ally and friend to Wonder Woman and her supporting crew. That change was very cool to see as it gradually developed throughout Azzarello's story. It helps that his take on HERA was amazing and one of the best depictions of the Greek god I have ever seen in any media. Her flippant attitude and behavior mixed in with a growing sense of compassion that Diana could perceive and respect made her one of my absolute favorites among Wonder Woman's many allies. 5th place happily goes to HERA, one of Wonder Woman's most dangerous enemies that Diana turned into a friend. Number 4. Superman. Superman and Wonder Woman have the greatest relationship of all time, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. No! Wrong! Why? God, what's happening? Okay, perhaps I don't have the most fond view of these two as a couple, but regardless of how I feel about their romance, I will not deny they are extremely important allies to one another. Taking aside all their relationship stuff, no matter how you feel about it one way or another, they 100% deserve to be recognized as an important team in the world of DC in general, not just in Wonder Woman's life. Together, these are perhaps the two most powerful people on the planet, and there's something really cool about that. They have a neat dynamic, a very different backstory but similar powers, and the two can relate in a lot of important ways because of that. But they also have very relevant differences in how they view and conceive the world. And while depending on the writer this has been expressed in many different ways, it just makes sense. They're two of the biggest heroes in DC, both in terms of raw strength and popularity. There isn't much else to say that they don't kind of say for themselves because of it. Wonder Woman and Superman are a powerful team and one of my favorite duos when it comes to Diana's character. Number 3. Batman. And right beside we finish with the third member of the DC Trinity with Batman. These three have cemented themselves as the major players in the world of DC Comics for some time now. So their placement here and their fixture in that role both seem like pretty natural things. DC is generally best thought of as these big iconic characters anyways, and Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman all best represent that tendency. So it makes a lot of sense for me that the three of them would play a major role in each other's lives, because they're such big characters and have all been around for like 75 years now. The only reason Batman beats out Superman, and in my eyes he does it just barely, is because I like how Batman and Wonder Woman working together tends to elicit a bit more creativity out of the writers than Superman does. While the Man of Steel easily can go toe-to-toe with Diana, and as such they're pretty much on the same level in any given fight, things are a lot more on uneven ground when it comes to Batman. As such, it's very fun to see how this gets worked into the stories. It often lends itself to showing just how resourceful Batman can be, or how well Wonder Woman can work with and predict him in combat. I also have to admit I really just like these two characters personally. In most interpretations of these characters, Wonder Woman and Batman have a certain common ground and understanding with each other and the world around them, in a certain way that the Man of Steel just doesn't. Out of the Trinity, these two have shown a willingness to cross lines and do things for the greater good that we haven't really seen Superman go for. Until Superman snaps, and then Wonder Woman is totally on board, but that's what I like about the Trinity. They each have stuff in common with each other and differences with each other, and it's endlessly fascinating. Meanwhile, both these characters are pretty badass. Batman actively plots against his own team in case they ever turn evil, and broke his own no-gun rule to deal with Darkseid. But Wonder Woman snapped Maxwell Lord's neck on public television to save Batman's life once. Stuff like this makes me think that these two get each other in a very fundamental way that the other superheroes just don't quite clue into. Additionally, the value of having an ally like that makes Batman somebody who will make her consider things she might otherwise overlook or not think about. That's very important in an ally. So Batman wound up being one of my favorite Wonder Woman cohorts. But two of more really stood out over him. And let's get to those. Number 2. Artemis. Do you know what fiction in general needs more of, just because it should? Rivals. Rivals are fun. They shake things up from the typical friendship dynamic, they keep our hero on their feet, and they push the protagonist to do their best. They are a source of endless conflict and opposition by their very nature. And that's why Artemis takes the number 2 spot as one of Wonder Woman's best allies. He's a character that actually offers quite a few things to the story of Diana. As a fellow Amazonian, she serves as an important tether to that world, while also being a fighter able to go toe-to-toe with the very strongest in the world of DC. Artemis gets the benefit of being one of the few major characters that grew up around Wonder Woman, and there's value in having people like that go back so far with the protagonist and their story. As both an ally and a rival to Wonder Woman, Artemis can be an important character, willing to stand up to Diana, question her decisions. As both an ally and rival to Wonder Woman, Artemis can be a useful companion in battle or a voice for the people of Themyscira. Much like Batman, it's very important to have a character willing to stand up to Diana and get her to question her own decisions, which Artemis is almost always prone to do in any Wonder Woman story by her very nature. She wants to question and disagree with Wonder Woman because she views Diana as a bit of a competitor. Maybe just implicitly, but it's all clearly there. And that's a good thing for both characters. Artemis is also just kind of awesome in her own right and sort of deserves recognition for that. At the moment, she's doing a series of badass things in Red Hood and the Outlaws, and feels right at home with that gang. Between a strong persona and being a vital character in Wonder Woman's story, she simply is one of Diana's better allies. But that brings us to the number 1, Steve Trevor. So yeah, probably not a huge surprise on this one, but no matter how much I thought about it, this was the natural choice for the number 1 spot. When you get right down to it, Steve Trevor is an essential part of Wonder Woman. It was Steve that crashed into Themyscira and brought Wonder Woman out to the world beyond the small island nation. It was him that showed her that she can and should work for the world, not just for her own people. If you want to understand and know about Wonder Woman, you kinda need to know about Steve Trevor and the role he played in getting her to basically go from this Amazonian princess to a superhero. He's the catalyst and the reason that happened. So he's not just a major character, or even an important character, he's an essential character. About as fundamental as it gets when it comes to established canon. As important as the colors or the Amazonians or the Greek mythology. None of those things are vital for Wonder Woman's character per se, but they are essential for her character as it exists. Wonder Woman is in many ways defined by Steve Trevor. He's her first love, one of her closest allies, and are still good friends who can work together impeccably well. Steve Trevor takes the number 1 position on this top 10, and make no mistake, he never really was in competition with anyone else. So there you have it. Thanks for watching this video, and let me know who your favorite Wonder Woman characters are in the comments section below. If you like Comic Island and want to help us make more videos, check out our Patreon page to see like perks and stuff, so, you know. Finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.